Hey there to everyone at Bass Musician Magazine. This is Kilian Duarte coming to you today with a cover artist for next month, Mr. Tony Puleo.
Hi, everyone.
We've been good friends for a while now, and we found out at last year's NAMM that we were neighbors, so we thought, what better way to do an interview with than over a glass of wine here in wonderful Salem, Massachusetts, so you get to know the man behind the bass. So, Mr. P, could you please give us a small background as to your bass playing history and what got you into bass?
First, I got to be a good Italian kid and pour this. Background history. I'm from Stoneham, Massachusetts, which was an interesting town. Stoneham had a real heavy musical history. The people from that town, there's people from there that actually work as executives within the industry today. Some of them teach at Berkeley. There's people that are in the biggest, like regionally touring bands and tribute bands that are from this one little small town 10 miles north of the city. So it was kind of, I don't know if there's something in the water there, but that is a very musical place that I was fortunate to grow up in.
That's awesome. Let's go over some of your early and then segue into your more current influences on the bass.
In the past was like, I think most Gen X kids was playing bass as Geddy Lee and Steve Harris. That was my thing, And as I got older, my favorite musician of all time is Jonas Hellborg, hands down, Jimmy Earle and T.M. Stevens. And, I've been lucky enough to meet all these guys, to chat with them, to hang out in the industry and talk shop. Super fortunate. They're super talented guys. They're not exactly the most conventional people in the bass playing world. People think of Victor. They're thinking of Will Lee, people like that. For me, I like kind of like the little side list. Jonas is the most expressive. Jimmy, I can feel I can relate to playing wise a lot, and TM is a groove machine that's just always happy and smiling. And I hope he's healing because I know he's in the latest stages of dementia right now. But yeah, it's kind of sad. But big influence for a dirty funk rocker. He was definitely in my 20s and 30s. He was. I've always listened to him.
Yeah, I definitely have to say that those are great choices. All of those players have such a unique voice, and I think pretty much everyone in the magazine has loved whenever we've covered those players, and they just relate to them very well. So those are great choices. Let's go over what you currently have going on.
Well, this year it's been delayed, so it's almost like weird to talk about because I've got 2 records coming out. One with like my homeboys, Flight, Scott Deardrin, Scott Abeni, Sal Dimitro. We finally putting out a record. It's just tough because everyone's in different projects. Everyone has different things. Everyone has interests outside of music that they're doing. So it's an instrumental progressive band, and I've never seen 2 guitar players work together so harmoniously in that type of environment. That's going to have that record out hopefully November. We're just touching up a couple of tracks in the mix right now. Then we're going to master. TSK is in the same boat. We're kind of doing these together. And, of course, Scott Abeni plays in TSK as well. We're going to have that out. And then I believe we're going to be performing that live at NAMM 2018. I don't know what the future is with that because the drummer that originally recorded that is on to some other projects. But, that's happening right now. I know I'm working with Patrick Benny, he was tech with Eagles of Death Metal and Mastodon. He's super talented singer-songwriter guy who can play anything. Right now, the band is called HAARD. They're releasing their first single December 1st, and rehearsals have started for that. So we'll see what's going to go on with that in 2018. As soon as these records are done, I'll be moving on to a couple other things, hopefully doing some more shows with Flight. TSK is up in the air, but we're at least going to release the music. And from there, we're going to see what's going on. There's always irons in the fire. You have to keep one thing going to the next, to the next. As a working musician, the days of the rock star are like dinosaurs. They're fading out, right? They're gone. But the working musician, the active working musician, is still doing his thing. Would you like a drink?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. All right.
With that being said, very appropriate that we just cheered. For those of you at Bass Musician Magazine who have very dearly followed our NAMM coverage over the past, 7-8 years, we have been big fans of Mike Law basses and Mike Law artists, including Tony, Brian Beller, Jeff Ament, and many others. And we've always gone to their booth. But this year, there's a very nice surprise in store. Could you tell us about your new Mike Law signature bass?
Mike Lowell's signature bass, the TP5. I'm like a little kid, even at my age. I mean, who doesn't want a signature, right? I think all players want that. It's kind of funny how I even came to Mike. I was working with another company years ago and I was playing, just to nerd out for a second, so I'm going to tell everybody here, bear with me, right?
We like nerding out.
Nerding out's good. I was playing 35-inch scale, big modern basses, and I was playing the company's jazz basses. And I'm like, how do I merge these two? I really want something that does it all. So that company went kind of belly up. I think they're still producing low volume, but they're a kind of a niche company. And I was talking to the guys at Mike Lowe, and I was really kind of almost by design, they worked out for me. I was looking at a few different companies to work with. Then Mike's really worked well. The neck profile was fine. They did something very distinctive with their JT5 24. It's a spin off that. Their 24 fret model version, which is something like this guy right here. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah, we've gotten 3 different basses now like this. I came to them kind of educated, knowing what I wanted. I wanted the 24 fret, I wanted modern, I wanted 18 millimeter. I wanted a brighter sounding instrument that I could tame. And the TP5 is pretty much like this exactly. There'll be transparent finishes minus the flame top. And I know some people are like, why are you going to get rid of the flame top? But it's not an aesthetic reason. It's not a cost price reason. It's a tonal reason. You get that kind of tight, bright end, and I want it to be a little bit more, it's still very tight sounding, but I wanted it a little bit more open, a little bit more of the low end. I just wanted to keep it ash. And in fact, my original build with Mike was going to be ash and ebony. And now the new one's going to be ash and ebony, and they're going to be available in transparent finishes. Nordstrand's a big part of that, Nordstrand pickups. So it's basically, it merges what a big modern 35-inch scale bass does, fill in the blank of who you want, and a jazz bass. So it's basically, I think, the happy marriage. Yay.
That's wonderful. Again, those tone woods are very popular, so I could definitely see that really being successful. And yeah, active jazz basses are really one of the most popular builds in the industry. So that's going to be, I can't see that not being successful. So wonderful. Moving on, what are some technique tips and tricks you would recommend for up-and-coming bass players or other professionals?
So just to preference this, I poised to the internet, hey, I'm going to have an interview. What do people want to hear? In fact, I'm going to get into some specific people in a few minutes. And one of the things that helped me is basically just knowing your theory in and out. Really, there's no quick tips or tricks, but if you know your theory, it's like knowing a language. Picture if you don't know Japan and you were instantly transported somewhere in the country in Japan where maybe English isn't as popular. How would you communicate? Well, if you had more of an understanding of it, or more of an understanding of what your instrument is capable of communicating, then I think that is your core bass foundation, at least for me. If it worked for me, it can work for anybody. That's the big thing. I think know your theory in and out, and basically have your timing down. Like, I know there is a well-known jazz educator that says you don't have to use a metronome. Timing isn't as critical. I wholeheartedly disagree. Sorry. In today's music, everything's snapped into Pro Tools. Make your life easier on whoever's mixing you. Have your timing as good as possible. Be right on there. Be a machine. And then if you want that loose feel, if you want to play purposely behind the beat, if you want to sit way on top of it and be aggressive and do like a Pepper Z type of thing, fine. Choose when you want to. Know the rules and then break them. So that's my thing, is having a good foundation. Some people you got to read. Great. If you want to going to certain styles of music, whether it's classical or theater, or which I do a lot of, and even there it's not as necessary to have as much of a reading background as you think. It all depends on what the production is and who you're dealing with. If I had to say, if there's one thing you should know your theory in and out, trust your ear, develop that, play with as many people as possible, and have your timing on.
That's all really solid advice. I've always found that the more you know, in general, whether it's theory, technique, reading, anything, the more opportunities open up. The more you do your homework, the more doors open.
Yeah, I firmly believe get that foundation. I approach every new piece of music by first identifying, what is this? What is it? Is it the key of D? Okay, great. All right, where's its timing? Where's its feel? What's happening? And then I have an instant foundation if I want to use it. And I think that's key number one.
Awesome. So let's move on a little bit here.
We have some notes here, folks.
Okay. The composition process, songwriting, writing bass parts. What gear and software do you use and why?
I actually took some notes. I might have to look at this.
Oh, yeah. No worries.
Sorry, folks. This is a shout out to my friend, my boy, Darren Ham. Darren, you asked this specifically. So this goes back to using the theory as a foundation. If you need a melody, I'll purposely play a rhythmic part. If I need a rhythmic part, I'll purposely try to play a melody. I'll use the opposite to create what I need. Try an exercise, try to consciously think of something simple melodically, and you'll get a rhythm out of it. At least I do. So, and I know other people have too. I didn't invent that. That's advice I got from teachers. So, it's really helped me. As far as software using, well, I'm like Pro Tools like anybody else, but I'll use BFD. Sometimes sometimes it's just a live 2-track, BFD for drums, and then I'll play a synth part over it, and just to get a quick melody. But I don't even do that half the time. I still write from bass. I'm a bass player first and foremost. I play Chapman stick. So I'll play stick a little bit if I need something. I play a little bit of keys. I'll play keys a little bit if I have to, but I'm a bassist first and foremost.
That's always a good way to start. All right, so the next question comes from Josh Bass Mountain Townsend, and he goes, I appreciate background and would love more insight on players' personal exercises for dexterity and opening up the tonal palette. For example, I'm currently working on using Hanon piano patterns over 2-5-1 cycles and then applying that in an improvisational setting over different chord changes. So, for you theory nerds, this one's going to be fun.
Well, I don't have the best theory answer. And I had to write this down, actually, to really get over this. But basically, I would take, it's time consuming. I'd take something like Auto Leaves or a classic 2-5-1, and then I would play it all the way through. Then I'd play it all the way through with the 2 chord being inverted, flip it to its first inversion. Every 2 chord in the whole piece, flip it to the first inversion. Every 2 chord, again, to the second inversion. And then I would do it again to the third inversion. And there's people that know that are going to teach this way better than I ever can, The internet will do this better than me. But if I had to force my brain to hear things separately, to learn a more harmonic structure. And I've done this exercise. That's exactly what I've done. I've opened the real book. I've thrown on, a $20 metronome and clicked and have done that. You don't need software. You don't need anything except your instrument in tune, real book, click, small practice amp. And the knowledge comes from what you're doing, not necessarily all the tools around you. And that's what I would do. Inversions of everything. In your harmonic structure, you're eventually going to be like, all right, unless you're totally into it. It was great for me. I went through a point in my life between like 16 to 20 maybe, where I was eating that stuff up. At that time period in my life, it was, you wanted to, the shred thing was really big, so if you want to be an accomplished bass player, you had to be like that. Or, there was everyone my age at that time was, oh, Jocko this, Jocko that, Jocko this. And I was like, all right, that's cool. I'm going to go to this crowd. The women are hotter.
Oh, man. That's funny.
Being honest. I'm being totally honest.
Okay, so more nerdy stuff that everyone loves because bass magazines love talking about gear. What is your favorite piece of gear currently in 2017?
The DSM Noisemaker Omnicabism Deluxe. That thing sounds killer. It sounds killer. It's they're like somehow associated to dark glass. It's a cabinet simulation, and I think with so much going on, with people recording and rehearsing more direct, that in these ampli situations, I don't know. To me, I still want to hear my rig. I still want to hear that. Direct is great, but I want that cabinet sound. These guys have a tweakable cab sim that's fantastic. And, I just can't see, if you're a direct guy and you love amps and you're in a situation, I did a tour one time where it was an ampli situation in Europe. I wish that pedal existed then. I would have used it. So that is a biggie. And this sounds boring because strings never get highlight, but GHS progressive, man. If you want spank all the time and you want that to live and, like what's that Willy Wonka reference? If you have every little pocket change, the gobstopper, right? Yeah. You want that king GHS, Buy the progressives. They'll last. For me, I know everyone's acidic sweat might be different, I'm a big dude. I kind of sweat a little bit, not like overly sweaty, but like it doesn't affect me, and my strings last for a long time. That's just so huge. I mean, really, this is like, I think the first full year of on those strings, maybe a year and a half. I don't know how long. But that's really helped me a lot. The progressives have been great.
That's awesome. I personally can attest to those strings. I had changed the strings on my 6-string to progressives sometime in August while I was on tour. And I ended the tour, 12 days straight, and then put the bass away. And the other day I had a session in Western Mass, and I started playing it, and it still sounded pretty much brand new.
Yeah, I call that, they're great for spank machines.
So more gear stuff. What gear speaks to you and why in general?
A lot of people wrote back to me saying, I want to hear gear. I want to hear gear. I want to hear gear. And I didn't want to talk so much about gear, but it was the overwhelming thing that people want to know about. Okay. Some people said, well, I don't want to hear a bunch of sponsorship crap. Well, you know what? The stuff I use, I do sponsor. Yeah. So it just kind of works that way, but I've chosen them. Because they work for me. And that's one of the things is GK. It's tight, punchy, and grindy. Think of the opposite of Ampeg. Again, nothing against Ampeg. Dino, I love you, right? But there's a lot of choices out there. There's no one thing. For me, I need that, that real punchy, kind of fast transit attack. When I think of that, the first thing I think about amplification is I think of Kilian Kruger, hands down. Hands down. And stuff I'm using is GK, Mike Lull, Tsunami cables, GHS strings, bass switch, another great DI, Northstern Audio, A Designs, for mostly recording, but I might incorporate them on my B board real soon. It's stuff that these weren't the first companies I worked with, but I don't see myself pulling away anytime soon from what I have. I mean, they make me me. They allow me to do my job. You know, it's like as an artist, I've got the best palette that works for me, the best paintbrushes that work for me, and that's key. So it's not just aimless, mindless. Try this, you know. No, I really love it. I mean, I love it. So, and check out those companies, and I hope you hear me soon. And we're going to be also releasing a couple of things in the magazine. I'm going to have some links to some material, a couple of links to Flight, and a couple of things to TSK. I'm going to do some write-ups and check them out, and I'll be talking about them in detail. So hopefully you like the music. Hopefully go to iTunes, check out Hard, Haard, and we'll be seeing you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in and taking the time to check out Tony. We're going to be doing more features on the Signature Bass once it comes out, and we'll keep you posted with that as soon as we hear more. Take care, guys.